Welcome back, fellow Siege spectators and players. The Forge has been lit, and the flames guide us through day 3 of the Crucible. I am the Reverend Whiskey Glitter, and joining me on the desk tonight for these first best of ones is going to be the incredible talents of Goose and Allie. What's up, folks?
Yeah, as the flame continues to grow, so does the competition. Every day is more closer than the other. And even though that we are still relatively short, only 2 play days going into our third, a lot of things are kind of in the unknown for us.
Certainly is the case so far, and I'm interested to see how teams can forge their path ahead. Given that we are still pretty early on, there is both no stakes and a ton of stakes to the game at the same time, which does always make it very, very interesting to me just to watch how they go, so I'm ready.
Yeah, well, speaking of the stakes, Playday 2 had a couple of surprises, including a crazy Bans Coast loss and Cruelty seeing another close test. Ali, walk us through those first 2 games, Friendship Team versus Up Next and Slime Beef versus 1HP Esports.
Well, luckily I casted both of those, which does make that pretty easy. And to me, with the first game, honestly, the big thing that stood out to me was just the adaptability and the raw talents on Friendship Team, right? They were a former Pro League team, and they played like it. They were so confident and comfortable throughout that entire map, whether they had to be passive or aggressive or some combination of the two, and there was never an easy solution that Up Next could point to as their saving grace. As we see in the highlights here, there were so many mechanical moments that just made that game what it was. Even when things sort of defaulted a little bit, well, we had a 20 bomb coming from Friendship Team. But 1HP versus Slime Belief, though, is a little bit different, with 1HP continuing their streak of being a little bit disappointing this season, but Slime Belief honestly kind of living up to some of the talents that we'd expect from that roster, as they were in a similar boat to Friendship Team, very comfortable being aggressive, but there was a lot less pushback from 1HP than there was from Up Next in the previous game. I mean, this is the last round that we're seeing right here, that's 7-1.
And so, speaking of comfortable and confident, Goose, you took on those second 2 games of the night, right? Bans Coast versus Slime Belief in that doubleheader, and Team Cruelty versus Shreds. Take us through that one.
Oh yeah, Bans Coast and Slime Belief game was just a back and forth. Both teams really testing each other. In the very first matchup where Bans Coast was tested on their fundamentals, really pushed to the limit, going all the way to the last round. Eventually, it was Slime Belief who was able to win it out, and then Shreds giving a little bit of surprise, not only to Team Cruelty, but to us as production members also, forcing Team Cruelty to an 8-6 victory and getting 1 point. Sure, they weren't able to win it, but they were able to eventually just give a fight, and it really goes to show just how these games are really unpredictable.
Okay, so that's the story thus far from yesterday. So, Ali, let's talk Group A. What is really standing out? What are the big key features here in this first group?
Well, given that there's only been a couple of play days so far that have been played to completion, there isn't a ton that we can really go over definitively right now. But I think kind of the main thing that you could argue is definitive is kind of where 1HP Esports is sitting right now. Having lost 2 games with a minus 11 round count, they're certainly the team that is worse for wear in this position. Whereas Slime Belief, they're feeling pretty good right now, having won both of their games, sitting at 5 points with a +7 round differential.
And so, Goose, any surprises on Group B for us right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is the definition of Group B. It has been a surprise. Going into this, I thought a team like Shreds maybe would have just owned that last place spot, but sure, they weren't able to get a win against Team Cruelty. They were able to get a point, though, and that is very important. It really goes to show that not only is this entire group unpredictable, Space Troops also getting a win onto Core in overtime, also allowing them to have an extra little point there. It's kind of a situation where I don't know where these standings will look, even going from the very first place to all the way down to 6. And it really goes to show that, especially for teams like Outlast, these games going forwards will be really important.
Okay, so that's where we stand. Here's where we at today. The first game, Reality TV taking on Friendship Team. right? And this is going to be a huge game. Goose, reality TV seems to have sparked up some momentum. What's that change? What's the key that's seen some of this success?
Well, after quite a bit of months of formerly being known as Fluffy Gamers, then going out in playoffs without even winning a best-of-3 series, JJ and Co. are now being named Reality TV, have dropped Deity and added the wealth of experience of a player, that being Mr. B. And obviously, dropping such a hot player like Deity is going to put a lot of pressure, mainly on the 3 players like Snake, Recited, and Emilio. You're going to need someone to really step up big, have a really good impact. Their last game, the very first game in the Crucible for group stage against 1HP, was not the best of tests they could face, especially compared to today's against Friendship Team. I think this is going to be one of the first series where we will really see how good this Mr. B system, being paired with the 4th, 5ths of that JJ and Co roster, really will be, because, removing a player like Deity is just putting a lot of pressure on those 3 players to have a lot of success on entry, having a completely new system. And speaking of pressure, Emilio 12-3, putting a lot of that pressure on his shoulders, and he handled it relatively well. And he has historically been a phenomenal player who can show up, and if either him or somebody else on reality TV can continue to show out, especially in that entry and kill department, then it shouldn't be relatively any problem whatsoever.
So speaking of the problem, right? Speaking of the question marks, Ali, will the power of friendship be enough to take on this goated reality TV roster?
Well, if we're saying that 1HP wasn't much of a test, I'd argue that Friendship Team would be, right? I talked about them earlier. They're very, very confident right now, and they look really, really good just in general. They're firing on all cylinders. Everyone's able to trade off kills when they need to. And they've also been able to come back from things that would be kind of shocking for a lot of people, which speaks to that mental resilience that has allowed them to do things like qualify for Esports World Cup, as well as exist in Pro League for quite a bit of time as well, formerly under LG, or Luminosity Gaming. But the big thing that I'm kind of looking forward to is, up next was a challenge for sure. I mean, it took all 12 rounds of regulation, but in the end, just Silent specifically, but the team in general was way too hot to handle, with him going crazy yesterday, going 20-6. That's plus 14 kills for their opening game in the Crucible. That is a stat line that, if I'm staring down the barrel of that, I am not happy about it.
Yeah, a 20 bomb going absolutely crazy. So I guess then this becomes the big ultimate question. Kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in the pre-show. These 2 teams have faced off before, right? We have to go back a little bit to the wild card reset. Goose, reality TV as that fluffy aimer roster has already beat these guys.
Yeah, obviously a much different roster, still having Deity and Rival, but you still have that 3-5. You have Recited, you have Emilio, you still had JJ, and this was a game that really tested Luminosity, that showed a lot of their cracks and a lot of their mistakes that they made, and has forced both teams, more importantly, Reality TV, to make quite a bit of changes since this event, but also put them in a position to tie record in round count with G2 versus Empire on this second map that you're seeing right now, Cafe. It really, not only at this specific time, showed how high T2 teams could really fly, how high their ceiling was, but rather how just faulted Luminosity, a Friendship Team now known, really is. It took big moments, not only in game, also out of game, like the movement from JJ, to really show it. And I think this will be nothing the less in another matchup, a rematch even per se.
Okay, so the rematch, it's a best of 1, a sprint to the end. We got to figure out where we're going and how are we going to get there. Ali, if you want to walk us through what map are we headed to today?
Well, we're about to find out here, with nothing out of the ordinary for the first little bit of these bans, with, I mean, Lair still being banned out permanently so far in most things, but the Crucible as well. Border also being banned out, which I think is an interesting one, along with Club, which is a pretty mainstay map for best of ones, but that's going to bring us to the map where the legendary game took place, Cafe Dostoyevsky.
Wow.
Cafe. So seem to have a bit of reaction to this, Goose. What does Cafe to you right now?
It means a lot of things. Obviously, if we add that context of the previous time both of these teams met, obviously a much different roster for reality TV. And if there was a better chance for the Goose Curse to live on, it would be this matchup. But again, I do really want to put a lot of importance that it has been months. When we saw that matchup all the way back in August of last year, not only have we seen Luminosity, or now Friendship Team, obviously in my opinion, approve, especially compared, they had a lot of struggles and from that August to October time span, but leading into Element and SI Quals, they've made a lot of progress. And if you look at now Reality TV bringing in two, I guess you could say, new players, and the new addition of Mr. B, adding a lot more structure. I think that has been one of the problems with this roster, is there hasn't really been a set in stone structure that at least has had a lot of success. And I think this could be the answer. But again, we've only seen them play against 1HP. We don't know how much this team really is capable of.
So Cafe, it is kind of that giant square. It's tough to get into building, lots of crazy gaps to spot here. And in this sprint, not the marathon for this map. Give us your final thoughts. Ali, we'll start with you.
I like Cafe a lot, personally. As a player and as a coach, it was a map that I enjoyed quite a bit. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that map's kind of like a sandwich. There are a lot of layers that you can choose to dissect, and it makes vertical operators really, really fun. You often expect to see things like a ram or a buck be brought, and personally, I was a big fan of doing things like cocktail takes with a buck down below, and it is just kind of an interesting thing that we'll often see teams throw into differentiate their attacks from things that the defenders might be expecting.
Good final thought, Cafe, before we get into this absolute banger?
I think it will be a back and forth. I don't want to say 100% that this could be, barn burner to the maximum round count. But I think, just ignoring the round count, I think just in the rounds with the context of what happens, I do think both teams really will be tested, and more of that light will be shined onto reality TV.
Okay, well, I'm absolutely excited for it. Ready for that aggressive action, ready to see some of those early picks, ready to see this redemption round. It's time to get into it. Oh, maybe it is not.
No, it's not.
Okay. We
don't know. I think we're waiting for players.
Not quite ready yet.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So while we get this last player into the lobby, we're just going to take a quick break, make sure that everything's all good. So sit back, relax, because when we come back, I'm going to bring in the first one.
No, I don't know what's up. I don't know what's up. I talked in text chat and added them in the team server.
Welcome back. Fairly quick as far as technical pauses go, and that's how we'd like them here. If you didn't see the pre-show, first of all, I mean, you missed out. We had Whiskey Glitter there. It was always a good time. But more importantly, casting Reality TV versus Friendship Team, which I think Goose and I are kind of predicting to be the match of the day just because this one really should be a banger.
It really should be. The writing is in the wall, and in my opinion, it is really going to be up to a factor of two things if this is going to be a one-sided affair of just maybe one team kind of dropping the ball on this game day, or rather one of the teams just completely figuring the other out. I think we talked about how this reality TV team is relatively new. Obviously, you do still have those 3/5 of that roster last time these two teams met, but also 4/5 only taking out Deity for Mr. B, obviously shifting a lot of the focus onto players like Snake, Recited, and Emilio having a fantastic game last night, and then also just a completely new system. I think, one of the problems that this roster of reality TV has had in previous months is just a lack of consistency. I think adding a player like Mr. B, hopefully a brand new semi-introduction of a system, could allow for more success. But again, only seeing them play against 1 HP, there isn't really a whole lot to really test and value how good this roster really can be, even, if their ceiling is relatively high.
Yeah, I mean, it's been something we've talked about a little bit, but I think it will be interesting to kind of see how they do against a team like Friendship Team. As, in my opinion, Reality TV has, or when they were JJenko and they had Deity, they were very good at punishing mistakes that were made by their opponents, but they weren't always very good at making those mistakes happen or doing very well without them against a team that was as good as they are. And so I'm interested to see if kind of having an IGL veteran like Mr. B is able to help a little bit of that. So saw him kind of come out of nowhere with Loyalty is Scarce in Element 4 and go 3-0 in that group stage, which unfortunately didn't translate to the playoffs, did not translate to the best of threes, but they did start to look a lot better as we got into the SILCQ. So I'm interested to see what he does with a team that is much more familiar with each other and has been together for a bit.
Yeah, I think also, Mr. B is kind of a player that almost ultimately just instantly adds experience, just adds an immediate effect to any team. So even if we aren't going to see the full extent of how much he's going to be adding to this new form of reality TV, it's going to be kind of a situation where we're still going to see a little bit of growing pains. I mean, not as much as, maybe a Pugstack or a brand new team, but this is going up against a team that not only is, T1 talent playing in the NAL for an entire season relatively, but also these players have been playing together for so long. This core, the chemistry has been built up after years. So there's just so much going against reality TV, not only on paper, but behind the scenes on top of it. It's really just going to be trying to find these small successes, trying to capture that lightning in a bottle until they find something more consistent going down the road.
Starting things off pretty standardly here, I would say. As we have a player tucked inside of the cigar area, more so looking to play around humidors. That is usually where you're going to mount the first part of your attack when you are on this map. It's going to be up to Recited, a player we highlighted quite a bit earlier, to defend that position. But right now, not seeing a lot of activity inside of the building from a Friendship team, as they're more so looking to kind of poke and prod and see exactly what Reality TV are looking to do throughout this round so they can figure out how to dismantle it.
And yeah, this is something that Friendship team is relatively known for, especially just in the early couple of rounds of just testing how fast teams are, and Eddie doing a fantastic job of catching Recited off guard all the way from piano window, getting such a crucial player that was trying to deny a lot of times, trying to deny that cigar space from being taken. And now, even though Reality TV isn't able to find that trade, isn't able to apply any bit of pressure, they have stalled Friendship's team as of for now, haven't been able to take that top red position, haven't been able to find any other map control, and it looks like they're going for a plan over inside a bar.
Yeah, they don't have a ton of time left here to dismantle everything. Only about a minute left, which is certainly doable, though I'd argue far from ideal. Next turn is going to be JJ sitting in this corner here, but Snake's going to be the next one to get a pick onto Nick. As JJ still holds fast, kicks throw though, manages to take out Mr. B, but now they're aware of what this plan from Friendship team is, and they've also got to rotate over into the positions to counter it. Diffuser is now going to be down by a Snake because he's playing over by that humidor area I highlighted earlier. Now, about 30 seconds left. Player actually inside of the building for the first time this round with Wi-Fi. It's going to make things a little bit easier, but there's only 20 seconds left to get in and get this bomb down, and Emilio, he is not making it easy. Holding this position inside of the freezer, going to fall back and hold with JJ now. Is silent. He's isolated on top of the roof. Kicks is in the building, but he's on such low HP. As it's going to end up being Reality TV to close things out, as they're able to hold on just long enough.
A close round to start us off, and hopefully a telltale sign of how this entire best of one will continue to go. But I was a little bit confused in that round because you saw as soon as they got that pick on to Recited over into Cigar, Friendship team didn't take that space. They didn't send any players repelling into piano. They didn't have anybody drop red hatch trying to take that control, get rid of that utility, that being the barbed wire inside of New Valve. And because of that, not only did they just kind of in themselves waste their own time, but it also allowed Snake to retake that position, find a pick, and because they found a pick, because Friendship team had to recall players over to that position as they were trying to hold those windows by bar, trying to go for that execute to get that bomb down, it was a distraction that if they just had taken that control, at least maybe even had a drone, had anything whatsoever there, it's a problem that they wouldn't have had to deal with. And I think it's something that they're going to have to really watch for going forward on this attack, because Reality TV specifically, players like Recited and Snake will be players. If you give that map control up that you took as an attacking team, they will take it back.
Yeah, I think a lot of what really was shining for them yesterday was just the fact that they were willing to kind of be the ones that would set the pace and make things happen against Up Next. But a lot of it was enabled by the fact that Up Next were very timid with the way they played defense. But Reality TV isn't going to do that. They're absolutely a team that is going to sit on the front door with a shotgun and yell, "Get off my lawn," as Eddie tries to waltz his way in. Speaking of which, we do have a player inside of Bakery here. It's going to be recited. So wants to make up for last round, see if he can find the opener this time, but that Nomad charge going to make things a little bit more difficult. So he's going to make his way over to the top floor. See if he can figure out where the rest of these attackers are coming from as Friendship Team look to make their entry in towards the top floor.
Yeah, I love this addition of the Blackbeard on Eddie. It's going to allow them to just traverse around this map a lot more, just simpler, not having to worry about that players. Eddie can take very aggressive fights alone, essentially. Obviously, you do want to eventually have an additional attacker behind there, but he is a spearhead that can kind of poke his head out in positions, clear that position, and get in. You can see, again, the Friendship Team is just moving so slow on this attack, trying to get every small bit of info possible with this drone economy, and not necessarily wasting it, but not really being able to exactly act on it fast. Somehow, though, Friendship Team, or Reality TV rather, has given up a lot of respect, given up that top floor control. Two players now falling down in that white stair position. JJ somehow losing some health from the drone hole.
Only 3 drones left for Friendship Team so far, and they haven't really capitalized on most of them. I mean, they have taken the top floor, but there's not a ton of time left in the round, and they don't have many drones to get the execute itself going, which is... But it's a bad spot to be in for sure. They're doing vertical play with Blackbeard frag grenades now, which is certainly a choice. That's what we see quite often.
It is really confusing because there is no soft breach on Friendship Team. It looks like that they are relatively unprepared for this round, still just relying, putting this round on the shoulders of Eddie to find an opening. Just even if it's info, relaying a certain spot, and right now they're just not been given anything.
Mr. B is going to open things up with that pick on the kickstore. He tries to go further, but Nick is in the position to stop it. Diffuser's going down, Snake falls, so does Recited. The vertical play doesn't seem to matter, but no, we see Emilio get in, almost gets 2 kills off of that diffuser plant, but Eddie has that shield in his hands. They're going to try to retake the top floor here, see if that yields any results. Nick, going to be the first contact up there. He knows at least one's coming. He's just tucked himself in this corner, watching and waiting for these defenders to come through, trying to worm the way around. He swings against the first and gets the second as well. Nick holds the angle he needs to off of that plant. And Reality TV take their first round loss of this game.
Honestly, a phenomenal recovery from Friendship Team. Obviously, they didn't lose that opening pick. Didn't necessarily have to deal with a lot of pressure from Friendship Team on that early round. A very heavy extended hold, having 3 players on that top floor, 2 over by bar, 1 inside of bathroom, but fell off relatively early. A couple of flashes, maybe even a nade, and you can see this retake, just not really aware of the positions, especially on this vertical of Friendship Team, and because of that lack of info, it gave the chance for Friendship Team to catch Reality TV off guard when they went for that retake. Obviously, having Silent go absolutely huge, getting those entry picks into the execution phase, into the bomb site was huge. We saw how much, not only importance Silent has for Friendship Team if we're looking at yesterday's game, but how a lot of the rounds, and I don't want to say the entire series relied on him, but he did have a lot of the pressure and slack on his shoulders, and you can't do that against a team like Reality TV. You're going to need to spread those roles across other players, but again, still a phenomenal answer back from Friendship Team to find one of their own.
So already, we're seeing one of my favorite things about Cafe come forward, and that is the fact that it is a map where you really can do a 4-site rotation if you want to. Have gone from bar cocktail to reading dining to mining and dining now, which is going to force a little bit of different adaptation out of Friendship Team, as last time they focused primarily on that reading bomb site, whereas now reading is just more space on the map, another extremity, which sure Reality TV are going to hold on to, but taking it doesn't really allow you to plant the bomb anymore. So we'll see how they can solve that new puzzle they've been presented with.
And, you know, to be fair, I understand these slow halves the slow start for Friendship Team, we could see how much it really gives them, especially in the last round, just trying to set up that execution phase of the round. And Kixfro just not understanding that Snake is playing in his position, giving that first pick away, somehow finds another one, and this quick attack onto the top floor is just falling apart for Friendship Team. Not taking enough time, Mr. B with 2, and now it's just Nick all alone in the 1v5.
Doesn't have control of that diffuser either, so he can't even hope to ninja his way into the site and get a plant off of it. He was sitting on the top of the building for now, just maybe looking to see if there's anything that his teammates want to say to cause that to not happen again, because that was, I think, supposed to be like an execute onto the top floor that's very, very quick, so they have time to figure things out, but doesn't end up working that way, as Nick has made his way inside now, just kind of creeping around, seeing exactly what he can find, and maybe if there's a potential opening, but so far, nothing has quite revealed itself.
Just trying to find anything, and this is a phenomenal job, and not to put it all on Mr. B, but it just adds that fact that, there in some situations before, Reality TV would not play this fast. It would swing and give those ones to that last player, but they understand that they don't need to play over aggressive, that they can set up a 3-man crossfire and just allow for this last player, Nick, to just walk into it, and that's exactly what he'll do, just walking into the lines of sights of Emilio. And again, another round where just going into that very quick jab rush on that top floor extension from Reality TV, it looked like that Friendship Team had no real info, no real idea of where those defender positions were, and almost every gunfight, it looks like they were being taken off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think they wanted to kind of quickly get onto the top floor and just overwhelm what the defense was doing, which honestly, it wasn't a bad plan the way they tried to get in, but they didn't realize that Snake was holding the position that he was over by Pixel, and so he just ends up catching a free kill because Blackbeard's shield might be scary, but it only faces in one direction, and happened to be facing the wrong one in that round. And then from that point on, the defense just kind of repelled everything else that did, because that linchpin they had, that Blackbeard that they wanted to get in and make people uncomfortable, just stopped existing as the opening pick.
10 seconds to insertion.
It's also another situation where teams all over Siege, not only in North America, not only in T3, even in the T1 scene sometimes, will force this Blackbeard into an isolated position, exactly what Friendship did last time, just repelling into White Hallway, allowing for essentially a 1v2, and not putting enough additional presence, whether it be just one player, maybe a drone, or maybe flashes in front of it, just something to accommodate and add on to the pure presence of the shield on Blackbeard. We're just not seeing that. We saw a little bit of it in the second round, but there just wasn't a need for it. And I think because of it, Friendship Team just don't want to put a lot of presence. They don't want to put a lot of thought into that, just taking themselves off of that. Adding Wi-Fi and the Nomad, I do like that. And I think it's kind of a situation where they just have to read into the momentum. They have to read into the positions. And it does really seem like this drone economy, gathering this intel, is a problem. It probably has added on to the fact of why they've been so relatively slow on this early round.
Yeah, drones are such a huge part of this game, and I feel like when I look at the drone counter, I've often seen the Friendship Team have lost quite a few more than you'd expect for that point in the round. I mean, right now they've only lost 3, but at one point, with a minute left in the round, they only had 3 drones left, which most of those are probably dedicated to watching your flanks, and those aren't really things you want to pull off of that. Although now, drifting back towards the present, they want to get this player off of Pixel, and they also want to make sure that they're not going to get shot by someone inside of Freezer when they actually jump in towards Piano, or they might be rotating towards Cocktail, but either way, they need to figure out what they want to do and start kind of working that space pretty quickly here so they can isolate these ones.
Yeah, it does really seem like, specifically on this fight, that they're very indecisive, and that indecisiveness has let a gap slip by, allowing for Snake to take down Eddie again, and just nothing is going in the way of Friendship Team. No opportunities being propped up, and they can't really create any of their own.
JJ gonna get a pick, but it was immediately refragged by that frag grenade. Snake is looking to see if he can get another aggressive one on this white window. Nick's positioning is interesting here because it looks like they don't really know where he is fully
Attackers recovered the
on that new balcony, but Rosita's going to get that pick before being refragged by Silent. That's still a 2 versus 3, though, and there's no concrete hold inside of the building. Wi-Fi going to make an attempt at creating one by dropping down New Hatch, trying to weasel his way in, figure out exactly where these defenders are. He equalizes that man count. Going to try to walk further in, see if he can get more with the defenders. They're not making it easy. Snake, he's on a 2K. It's all up to Silent now to 1 versus 1, but Mr. B, yet again, better in the situation, as Reality TV remain in firm control of the momentum.
Round in and round out, if it's just simply a friendship team not being able to use that drone economy, or if it's the fact that they've been able to use it and just haven't been able to really find an answer to get rid of these extended positions, this defender utility. And that's the second round of attacking that top floor bomb site, where they just tried to go for what seemed like a cigar and piano take, and then just completely fell off of it. It went all the way to the bar windows. And this indecisiveness is not only causing them a lot of time on the board, giving Reality TV plenty of time to not only adapt, but also find even stronger positions from this change in overall just execution from Friendship Team. But on top of that, it leaves a lot of gaps. And gaps like players like Snake, who are so flexible. If you make just one small movement, especially when you're completely reconstructing your entire attacking positions, he's going to be there to punish you for it. And on top of that, there is no round where I can definitively say that Friendship Team has a strong grasp on what Reality TV is trying to do on the defense.
Yeah, I think that ability that I talked about yesterday, for them to kind of get in the building very quickly and establish ground, was largely due to the fact that Updecks are willing to give it to them in a lot of cases. They didn't really have to work very hard. They could jump into a room with someone sitting on the doorway to that room and not have to worry about getting swung. Whereas Snake doesn't even have to be in the doorway to the room. It could be like 3 rooms over, and if he hears their pellet, he's going to go investigate and see what's going on. And he's been very successful at winning those gunfights so far. Everyone on Reality TV really has been fairly successful in their fights thus far, with the exception of Recited, but with everyone else firing on all cylinders, doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, and I also really just love the flexibility, not only of this Reality Team roster, that it's been allowed to continue. Mr. B not having kind of a, overreaching stronghold on it. Additionally, you saw, Recited actually play that mutant. Now it's JJ hopping onto it. And we can see round after round, taking this time out, the answer for Friendship Team is to just bring additional aggressive utility, and just swinging onto the game is going to potentially give the opening pick, but somehow Hixra with an LMG is able to lose his life, and all of that utility, all of that execution utility that was going to be used to push out these defenders from the top floor is gone because you just taken an over-aggressive fight against Snake.
Changing mag.
It's right after the timeout, too. That's not the result you want to see. It's now 4-1 opening picks for Reality TV, if anyone was wondering. As now, it also makes things a little bit more awkward for that blitz, because he becomes less effective with less people around him to capitalize off of the calamity that he's causing. Now we're going to see a Blackbeard run in, but kills go out, mostly favoring Reality TV until just now with that one from Nick. Wi-Fi as well, going to tag on with one of his own as the execute goes down. But the defenders have control of this vertical play. They can try to deny this plant for as long as they can, but they're not going to be successful. Nick is going to get that down, and that's going to make things more difficult for these defenders. But the shotgun from above from Snake, almost living up to his Ubisoft name, almost getting that pick. The health for so many of these players so low, but mostly for the defense. Snake's going to get one. He equalizes things. It's just left to Nick in silence. Woodovich is on low HP, but Nick with the 4K, he gets all the kills that his team needs as they finally answer back the momentum that Reality TV were bringing.
Finally finding 2 rounds, and these 2 rounds are kind of a mirage, in my opinion. Because if you add the additional context of both of these rounds being won by Friendship Team, was not only a reading defense, but where there was no real, just kind of effort from Friendship Team to really attack and try and clear out that top floor. Just going for a quick flood into that, specifically reading bomb site, being paired with that Blackbeard as a spearhead, worked out 2 times in a row. And that is the only formula, the only consistent strategy that has not only resulted in a win for Friendship Team, but has given a real problem for this reality team or reality TV defense that they haven't been able to solve. So sure, 2 rounds are great, and no matter the context, they're 2 rounds that will allow for Friendship Team to buffer, have a better chance going on that side switch. But it's also a situation where they haven't figured this defense out. They haven't figured out reality TV as a whole, and have kind of been relying on this exact same strategy that has found success that will be really limited.
See if we're able to tie ourselves up at the half here. That's going to be the goal of Friendship Team going into this. Just see this half start to come to a close. I'm interested to see kind of what they go for on the site after the tactical timeout, but also after they're able to stop that momentum that Reality TV was building. And more importantly, I want to see if that drone economy kind of goes the direction that it has been, which I feel some of it could have been used a little bit better. As we're just now going to see the hatches start to get opened up as Reality TV, their walls are starting to get peeled back a little bit.
Yeah, also Nick picking up, I don't want to use the word a lot of the slack, but he is doing a phenomenal job of just being able to shut down these kills, shut down these aggressive reality TV players, taking a little bit of that pressure off the shoulders of Silent, switching Silent onto the Ying, potentially trying to just save that utility for a little bit longer, putting Kixro on the Blackbeard now. I think that is a phenomenal change, just allowing for Kixro to continue to just be let off the leash. But if you also notice, those flashbangs to push out Recited from that pixel shield, but there's no real presence inside of Cafe, or not Cafe rather, but Piano. They didn't get any map control off of it. It was kind of just, a smoke show. But even through all that, Nick is able to find the very first on to JJ.
It is refrag pretty much immediately, and then some with the diffuser going down inside of the map. But so far, been a little bit of pushback from Friendship Team, as now we're down to a 2 versus 2. Make that a 2 versus 1, actually, as everything's left up to Emilio, with Wi-Fi picking up 2 of his own. Almost killed off by Emilio, as he's going to rotate around these bomb sites. Legion, a solid operator to have in this type of position, especially with what control the attackers have. They don't have control over the site itself. Emilio still holds that. And the utility the attack has to get him out is dwindling. They could try to smoke him off. They still do have a couple Candelas in their pocket. But there is not a whole lot of time for them to work with here. It's Emilio. I'm going to creep up, see if he can get in a good position here. As Wi-Fi goes and grabs that diffuser. 30 seconds left to make this work. Util going down from both sides. Candela going out as well. But to blind him out of the site, it is successful. They can get in towards Dining here, if that's the route they choose to go down. But the aggression, it almost gets a pick. 20 seconds left. Diffuser going down, slowly peeking around Emilio, but Silent has that pick instead off of the swing. And finally, the Friendship Team seemed to find the answers they were missing in the previous rounds.
Overall, phenomenal take on that 3rd floor. Finally locking down that drone. And in my opinion, it really just feel like that first half for Friendship Team was just kind of a learning phase, just trying to get their foot in the door, eventually getting 3-3 half. And a 3-3 against the defense is phenomenal. Obviously, Cafe is the def flip-flop map. It can go either way. Sometimes it can be attacking sided, sometimes it can be defending sided, but within a zombie band being Amos. Also, it's kind of a situation where a 3-3 half not only is not surprising, but is relatively what I should have expected. And I think you also might have as well going into this matchup, especially with the context of both teams. But again, it just really found like everything in that round went right for Friendship Team. They got the drones in the right places, were able to find enough intel on those defender positions, but also use their attacking utility, use Kixro finally as a spearhead. Sure, he was able to get a kill, but he did apply enough pressure for players like Nick to find that opening pick and snowball it into getting a 1v2 going into that execution phase of the round. And it really does feel like they found that system, but now going to have to try to refigure it all over again, switching now to the second side swap.
I'm interested to see how things differ here, because, like you said, this map kind of flip-flops, and so normally we'd expect, like, oh, well, Reality TV are on the attack now, so they're going to do a little bit worse, but it really could be an attacker-sided map for Reality TV, but not for Friendship Team, I feel. So we'll see if that ends up happening or some variation thereof. Ed is going to be one of the first points of contact here, sitting inside of that humidor on top of the hatch. As once that red hatch is open and Reality TV wants to get in towards Cigar Shop, that's going to be the first thing they look to dismantle.
We can already see just how much more presence and expansion that team has on this extension of the top floor compared to what Reality TV did on their own. And also, just Reality TV bringing their own kind of just difference. Having that Hibana being paired with Emilio, even having the DMR on the Twitch, I think is a phenomenal addition, just to get rid of a little bit of these, just defender utility, even some of the default cams. But having Eddie in the cigar position, just being able to shoot these drones one by one, may seem like something small, but there is no real answer. Kicks row is inside of Piano, but it looks like they just completely missed him. They don't even know he's there!
He's going to rotate around, try to get another one. Sitting on top of the hatch, though, if he does need to escape. It's Friendship Team. They're the ones in charge so far this round, and they want Reality TV to know it. Player sitting on top of red stairs, another on that ticket window. Both of whom want to see if they could try to find something to equalize things out. But right now, neither of them want to make a move, especially not Mr. B, because he does have that diffuser. The flash is going to prompt the drop, and Eddie's just going to get out scot-free.
I mean, that's just a huge blind sight, a huge overlook from Reality TV, using that Ying to just clear out that position. A phenomenal job and a phenomenal read from Eddie to just stay there, understanding that they didn't have the info, whether or not he knew that. It worked out in his favor. And Reality TV, or Friendship Team rather, they've done their job. They've gotten those two picks. They're just going to fall back down to sight and allow for Reality TV to work goal, because there is little to no time, only 30 seconds left. A two-man disadvantage, and they don't even have any intel on these defender positions on the bomb site.
You're going to see a lot more ratting coming out here from these defenders, along with a lot more Legion mines, which are just going to get more and more complicated to deal with as the seconds dwindle. Mr. B trying to fight this player on white stairs. He does manage to get him, but there's only 10 seconds left. Diffuser's down as they have to try to rush into the site right now. Snake, can you do it? No, the goo mine's in your foot. You're going to get downed as well. It's all for naught as Kickstro has that final kill, as Friendship Team take their first defensive round.
We talked about a lot on how Friendship Team started really slow in their opening rounds on attack. Reality TV doing the complete opposite and showing why you should probably take a little bit more time to do your due diligence. Just completely missing that player, missing the player inside of Piano. It's just kind of one of those things. If they just took a little bit extra time, they just took an additional extra step, just a little bit more due diligence, they wouldn't have let that player slip by. Keep in mind, he was completely blinded by those Ying Candelas. There was no way he was going to win that fight. And I think it's a problem, kind of like a micro change that is going to be more than easy for Reality TV to fix in these coming rounds. But if they don't, if they let that small thorn in their side continue to linger on, Friendship Team, they're going to be able to take advantage of it, because sure, it is a small problem that is easy to fix. But if you continue to just allow yourselves to have that lack of judgment, that lack of just checking your additional quarters, Friendship Team, they're going to read into it and they're going to take advantage of it.
See if the Brava is able to help things out a little bit. Certainly going to help with the Fenrir mines at the very least, which are such valuable utility to get up the board early, as they're often used to plug gaps that you just don't want the attack to get into. And we've seen it previously that Mr. B does like to be a gap hitter when at all possible with the way they take things, and Sure, Emilio and Snake wouldn't mind hitting a gap if one was presented to them, but they also do have to contend with this top floor roam, a lot of which going to be designed to take out these drones successfully, which has mostly been done so far, as 5 drones have been taken out from the attack, but a ton of defensive utility has also been thrown by the wayside as this has been happening thanks to that Brava.
Just really allowing Emilio to play in his place completely isolated. He does have the ping on to silent, but he may not be aware of the additional player in silent. He reads exactly into where Emilio is playing. Not only getting that first pick, but getting the Jackal off the board. Getting all of that pressure off of their backs is going to allow for him to play so smoothly. And on top of that, Reality TV trying to bring the pressure right onto the bomb site, and that's exactly what they do.
Execute's going to start going down, and he's second here off of those Capitao smoke bolts, but Silent has the vertical play that he needs to get it done. Plant going down on the bomb site here. Can they stop it? No, they cannot through the smoke, but they are going to get the kill on the player holding it. Mr. B, all that's left, completely stuck outside of the map. Yes, they're trying to get back in here. Going to make his way towards Red Hall, but no, Kixro has that kill. And off of that quick execute, everything goes down just as fast with Reality TV put into the dirt.
Defenders win.
I don't want to sound like a disappointed parent or a mad football coach talking to their young player, but the exact same problem of the previous round happened. Just not allowing for Emilio to have enough information. There were no drones. There wasn't even another player. The only thing he had working for him on that top floor was the ping. There was no chance for him to even have an inkling of that additional player on that top floor. And then on top of it, without working the vertical, without clearing those top 2 players upstairs, knowing that there was at least one roamer, they just go for a sight hit. Just throw up 2 smoke bolts, hoping that that player wasn't going to read out the diffuser. And he was going to be able to. I don't want to use the word lazy, but it really does look like it. It looks like that Reality TV can think they can just walk into these positions without Friendship Team not only being prepared, but just understanding what they're trying to do. And that's exactly what Friendship Team is doing. They're reading the Reality TV's attacks phenomenally. They are more than prepared to stop these aggressive takes and site takes. And it's just all falling apart, and nothing in these previous 2 rounds has changed.
See if the Blackbeard's able to make things a little bit easier for them. I did say before that Mr. B does kind of like to take opportunities when they present themselves, but normally you want those opportunities to be good ones, not what we saw that previous round. As it does look so far, at least, like that we're seeing a reinvigorated Friendship Team coming out of this defense. They're playing so much more comfortably. Then we saw them play on their attack. We'll see if Eddie's able to translate that, as he's tucked himself inside of Humidor yet again, this time with the FO12 in his hands, as he's taken out, I believe, both Twitch drones there, which is a ton of utility that's going to be completely safe now, especially with Wi-Fi getting that pick on the Snake. It's a fragger off of the board, shut down so effectively this attacking half. And now so much more utility will be saved.
And on top of that, no answer back. No refrag, no map space being taken, and Kixro is just allowed to just thrive in this piano position. Silent gets a knife onto JJ! How does that happen? Now Recited falls. It's all up to Mr. B. A flawless round at that! Everything for this Reality TV, this new iteration, is falling apart. And relatively poorly timed, in my opinion. A little bit late. But nonetheless, they will take their timeout, their last effort to potentially stop the bleeding, stop the sinking of this ship, because they're just 1 round away of losing this rematch.
Am I allowed to say that this is a reality check after the 1 HP game? Right? Because we talked about it before. Reality TV looked really, really, really good versus 1 HP, but this has been the first real test, and that defensive half perfectly split down the middle, with Reality TV looking really, really good. But now that they have to be the ones to set the pace and make the entries and make everything in the round happen, Friendship Team, they're just stomping them, right? They're the ones who are in complete control as we go throughout every single second of the round. I mean, we saw one guy get pokeballed, we saw a guy got punched in the face, and it just was not a close round. It was quite something to see.
Yeah, and we've really been kind of, I think, firing on reality TV. We've built up the Mr. Beast system. It's the second iteration of reality TV. This is our second method. It is going to take a wealth of time, relatively, to build up this system, to build this chemistry. Mr. B going into a system that was already built in place, no matter how little or how much it had an effect on the gameplay, it is still going to take time. We are going to see growing pains, and it's a completely different side of things. Last time these two teams met Friendship Team having a relatively poor offseason, losing Surf, their most impactful player, having to go through a lot of changes. At the time, Fluffy Aimers, having that roster for 3 months at that point, being able to really work through their problems. And we've kind of seen that, overarching story kind of flip-flop here. And I do think that is why we're seeing such a big buffer, especially on the side swap, as an attack just takes a lot more coordination that just isn't really built up at this point in time.
I mean, switching IGLs is never a thing that's easy, and I really don't want to try and imply that it is. And this hasn't been like a bad game at all, I do agree. Although I am interested to see how the tactical timeout affects things, because there is a coach for reality TV, if I do recall, though I'm not quite sure who it is off the top of my head. Silent, on this pulse, going to be gathering a lot of good information down below it. Even if they aren't able to directly act on it immediately, that does still tell them what reality TV is doing, which right now is taking the head off of Kickstro as they finally break that streak of opening kills, which had been established by Friendship Team.
On top of that, dealing with a very hot player, previously Kickstro going 3-5, just absolutely heating up. Was in 6 before he did lose his life. And this simple pick, this simple opening is huge. It was a problem that they've had in their previous 3 rounds, not only losing it, but being caught completely off guard and shutting down a very aggressive player and getting rid of additional defenders. So just getting that C4 off the board early is going to help them a lot. And now going into this basement or first floor bomb site attack, rather, they're going to have to do a lot of time. There's still so much map to go through, so much vertical to set up, and not a lot to do it with. You have Ash, you have her breach charges, but it's not going to be able to be as quick. You're going to have to work this vertical. You're going to have to get rid of this hatch that Wi-Fi does have Cade Claude. On top of that, you have Silent down below, and they may not be aware of this.
No, they are not going to get that refrag onto JJ. That's that Nomad off of the board. He's going to try to get out now and just see if he can gather more information for his teammates as this vertical play starts to ring down on towards reading. We want to get this player out of laundry. It looks like they know about where he is, but aren't quite sure what to do specifically. Nick's just going to hold steadfast in this position and try to hold out. There's only 45 seconds left for reality TV to make this execute happen. Starting to inch their way towards reading, see what they can find. Nick's still inside of the laundry room. Doesn't look like they know exactly where he is. No, they don't. They're going to walk right past him. He's just going to hold this angle. He's going to get a pick onto Emilio. He's going to try to go for more, but he doesn't need to right now. 20 seconds left. There's still the C4 below the site as well. Nick's just holding on to this position. They're wasting so much time trying to get him out. There's only 10 seconds left. Not to get in, they have to get this diffuser down, but Recited making this a little bit easier. No, but Wi-Fi in the site! He's got the 2K with the TCSG. It's all left up to Recited. There's no time left! We finally break the Goose Curse as Reality TV lose out their first best of 1 to FaceTime, or to Friendship Team.
The rematch that we built up so much, not necessarily disappointing, still a very valiant effort, but again, just reality TV completely falling short on that side swap, on the attack, not even getting themselves one round, even after taking that time out. And again, we talked about adding Mr. B, taking away an impactful player like DD. It's going to take time, not only for them to build up this brand new system that's being set up, but also start to mesh these personalities throughout the entirety of the team.
Back with us on the desk is going to be one Whiskey Glitter to help us break down that game a little bit before we send it to a break and get the next one prepared.
Goose, Allie, they have been redeemed. The grudge match now sees the lifetime of these two teams at a 1-1. And so, Goose, 3-3 on the half, meaning that the Gurse almost was assured, right? But once Friendship Team made their way to the defense, it just seemed, Goose, like reality TV had no answer for what they were bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I'm happy because, we are really just seeing this Friendship Team expand, improve. After stage 1 of last year, after their success, and more importantly, after losing Surf, going into stage 2 of the NAL, they were struggling, not being able to find an answer. Again, as I spoke about before, these past couple months, and now leading into the Crucible, they're looking great, better almost than ever. Obviously, the opponents are a little bit different than, the caliber of T1, but again, this reality TV team, even if still somewhat new, is a very potent team to go against, and a second win in a very hot contested group is something you can't really complain about.
Yeah, I would be feeling pretty good about it, right? Especially if you're going into this saying, ooh, this could be a real close one, right? So, Allie, our reality TV, obvious talent, right? They have some absolute gunners on it. What do they need to start looking to for their future games to bring back that fight?
But I really think it is just incorporate Mr. B a little bit more. This team has had a little bit of a rocky history with IGLs, which does kind of happen as good IGLs and good IGLs that fit the system you want are kind of a rarity. And Mr. B, I think he could potentially be the solution they want, but it's going to take time for them to get used to his system, as well as for him to get used to how they play and how he needs to call the system he wants to benefit the players he has.
Okay, well, there you go. Take it to heart, come back stronger for the next one. Match 1 is over and done. We've got the Shoobs coming up to take on Outlast in match number 2. So sit back, relax, because when we come back, we're bringing you